Right, hello and welcome back to the 25th episode of the Tussock Talks podcast. Crazy even saying that. But today's going to be another little chill one, just with me on my own. No one to chat to, unfortunately, today. But this morning, the episode with Luke, number 24, went out. The live video is on YouTube. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Really good chat in Primal Studios and Swords. Really grateful to Dan for letting me come in and have a chat with, all the equipment. The sound was amazing. The lighting, the videos, unbelievable. So thank you to Dan for that, and thank you to Luke for coming on. Really good chat. Go check it out if you haven't. But today, like I said, is going to be just me chatting to myself once again. There will be some water breaks because speaking to yourself for 30 minutes is pretty difficult. But we're going to do a little review, and then a little preview for this year for the podcast, for myself, and everything that's kind of been going on the last few weeks. I know we haven't been very active on the podcast, and there is good reason. Unfortunately, Kieran has decided to step away from the podcast for a period of time. No hard feelings, obviously. He is captain in his team this year, his tennis team, and he thinks it's going to be a big challenge to really turn around the culture. And I appreciate the fact that he wants to devote a lot of time to that, because it was a tough decision. Like, I obviously know Kieran very well now, so I know that it was a tough decision for him to make, but I also do appreciate how he wants to put 100% into everything that he does. And like I said, it's going to be a good challenge for him to be the leader of his team, and I commend him for, devoting all his time and energy and effort into that. So, he mentioned that he didn't want to give half to the podcast, and like I said, it's a testament to who he is as a person. And the podcast would have never even started if it wasn't for Kieran. Like, I think I've said many times, it was him that came to me with the idea of starting it. I told him to stop being a pussy and just start, which is funny looking back now. And then it got me thinking, and we ended up doing it together for 23 episodes. So obviously a massive thank you to Kieran, and he's always welcome to come back on. If there's ever a time where I have something that I want to talk about, he's probably going to be the first person that I call to have a chat. Because again, over the course of 23 recording sessions, you really get to know someone very, very well. And especially when, you can be meeting up with someone or meeting up with a friend or whatever, can be good in a sense that, you get to know them well or whatever. But when you have 23 sessions with someone deep, we talked about our past failures, our successes, our emotions, like the deep chats. You really get to know someone on a much deeper level than what you would usually. So I loved working with Kieran. I really did. It never felt like work almost when we were having a chat. It was just a chat at the end of the day. And I'm grateful for him for all that he's done for the podcast. And it's basically kickstarted us. And I think, like, I'll get into maybe a little later on, the plans for the podcast, but it's definitely not going away. Even though Kieran has stepped away, it kind of just means it's all systems go now. So I'll chat about that a little later on. But like I said, quickly, just a massive thank you to Kieran for everything that he's done. And if you're listening, bro, always welcome to come back on for another chat. Excuse the little water breaks. But yeah, next thing, I'm back in college. Back first week done of my final semester in formal education, which is mad to think. But I done a month at home. I spent a month back home, working hard. I didn't really get a break. I felt like when I was coming back, I didn't really have a rest, which is kind of the whole point of going home in the first place. But didn't have a rest, but very, very productive time at home. Really, really productive in terms of the business, in terms of setting everything up, in terms of meeting different people. I had a lot of meetings with people, and there was never any meeting that I had was always doing something. So over a coffee or going for a walk or meeting up in the gym or things like that. And that's what I love. Again, that's the whole. Your environment is massive. Who you're surrounded by is so important. And I'm starting to curate an environment at home and online of people who want to do the same shit that I want to do, which is key. And you feel really aligned when you meet someone, even for the first time. Like I've met some people this time when I was at home, really for the first time, like online friends, I keep calling them. You just meet people online. So what happens when you start posting online is that people come to you, and you kind of have a bit of social proof. Obviously, I'm not saying I'm some sort of influencer, but when people see what you're doing and feel aligned on what you're doing, they come to you. And there was a couple of people who I'd met for the first time this time at home who are doing some cool shit. And those were the meetings in the gym. Those were meetings on coffee or going for walks and things like that. And it was very, very interesting because I noticed a little shift. Maybe it's me, maybe it's my mindset has changed, but before when I went home, I felt very kind of closed minded in a way, and a lot of people were very closed minded. They would never want to do anything outside of the norm. Obviously, that's still common in Ireland, but like I said, the shift that I noticed was a little bit. People were a bit more active. People were a bit more interested in going out and doing some cool shit. Like I'd gone for saunas, or even me and one of the boys went up to Sugarloaf, like just on a random Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday morning. And it's like things like that again get me up out of bed, and that I want to do that shit more. Of course, when you have like time freedom in a sense, you have your own business or whatever, and it's good that it's online. It's like you can do those type of things. You can get up on a Tuesday and push your work back until the end of the day and enjoy a coffee with someone, or a business meeting or a chat or whatever, things like that. And it's taken time for me to be able to do that, and for me to have kind of like a leg to stand on in a sense, to be able to do that. And like I said, people do come to you. People do come to you. They really do, and it is very fulfilling when you can feel like the work that, let's say, you've done over the past couple of years, whether that be on yourself, whether that be in your business, whether that be posting online, comes to fruition in some sort. Like I said, I'm not saying I'm some massive influencer who has millions of followers, who has people begging at their knees to come for a coffee date with me. I'm not there yet, but I don't even really want to get there. But it is cool when people do see the mission and they do see what you're doing. Like, let's say they read the emails, or they listen to the podcast, or they see the sporadic posts that I do on Instagram, or the story that looks pretty cool. It's like, that's cool. You can start to build some sort of community, and I really do feel like that's what's happening now with Dussig, with the brand, because let's say we have how many do we have? Probably 6 or 7 lads in the group chat. There's probably 4 or 5 of us that are constantly doing it. The other boys need to get the finger out and start posting. I don't know if they're listening, but they need to start, interacting, because that's what community is. A community is not just a school group, or not just a place where people can come together and talk every once in a while. A community is somewhere we're in communication constantly, and that's what we're doing in that group chat. And it is great to see people from all over the world interacting with each other on a daily basis, posting their wins, posting their losses, things like that. And maybe it's something that I want to do a bit more, maybe on a larger scale, eventually, with the brand and with the community that I'm trying to build, especially in Ireland. I do feel like there is a need for something like that. And give me time, maybe sometime down the line. Again, it all depends on where I choose to live in 6 months. But like I said, I do see a shift. And I like the way it's gone. Genuinely, I do like the way it's gone. It obviously is nice to see, considering I do have that decision to make in 4 or 5 months' time. That maybe the tides are shifting towards one way or the other. obviously not going to give away the plans just yet because I don't know. Generally, I have no idea. I have no idea what the plan is, but I am kind of leaning towards somewhere, and it's cool to start seeing that at home, so that it kind of adds a bit more information in my brain, considering the decision that I have to make. So, like I said, there is a shift at home, and I think that's down to you. Like, if you're listening to this, you are part of that shift. It's the whole reason we started the podcast, and it's the whole reason why I started the brand 3 years ago now at this stage, nearly to the day. 3 years ago is when I started. So this is the whole reason why I wanted to build it. I seen the way people were in Ireland, and I wanted to be a part of that change. And now starting to see it on a really, really small scale, of course. But I think 2025, 2026, 2027 can be really, really influential if I play my cards right. So we'll see. We'll see. Here we go. Yeah, I spent a lot of time at home. Obviously, like I said, spent a month at home, but I did spend over the course of the time, I spent about 3 days or so, kind of really reflecting on the past year. 2024 was a very, very interesting year for me. Obviously, we started the podcast in March. I had a good season, good kind of spring semester in terms of training, in terms of productivity, in terms of learning the skills necessary. I had a really good summer, really, really fit, playing ball. And then the injury happened, which kind of threw a spanner in the works. And since the injury, again, I felt like that 6 month spell, because I was kind of dealing with a lot mentally, but like I was in a good place mentally, but I had a lot to do in a way. That made the 6 months fly by. And looking back now, that year was one of the quickest years of my life, like honestly. And I think it was a year full of growth. It was a year full of challenges, of course. You know, like the start of the year, learning all this software for the podcast, had to buy all the gear, learn how to speak online, learn how to communicate with someone else, learn how to communicate and listen and things like that. Then you had, obviously, me training. I was getting really fit. I felt really, really strong going into the summer. That was one of my goals, was to, make sure that I was the fittest I'd ever been this year, again, which didn't really happen. But summer was another challenge, living a lifestyle that I don't necessarily align with, but kind of had to do it to see how the other side of the world live. And then the injury happened, which threw a massive spanner in the works. And, on one hand, you can say like, oh, so shit, I'm so annoyed or so upset that it happened. But on the other hand, you can also just say, look, is what it is. Extremely grateful for the opportunity to show to myself how much that I've grown. And, throughout that whole injury recovery process of the unknown, which was probably down to the fact of the healthcare system in the US is terrible, that I had to just let it be. Like, genuinely, there was nothing I could do that would speed up or slow down the recovery. So it was like, just learn to let it be. And there's nothing you can do, so move on. And that was something that I noticed. I would be someone who would kind of need control over a certain situation. I love having control, and that's partly why I don't necessarily drink a lot, because you lose control. But not having control over my body, over my future, in a sense, that's the way I was looking at it, was really, really jarring. And it took me a long time, a month or two, to be able to say, there's nothing I can do here. Let's just move on with everything. And that's when, obviously, again, you could say I had time and space to think, and that's where the idea for the real business came from, the business that's actually a business now, not just something that I fucking talk about online. No, I'm starting this business. It actually is a business now, like, seriously. So that's where the idea came from, having space, having time to think to myself. If I was playing, if I was in that team every week, training, devoting 5 hours a day to the team, I wouldn't have had the time and space to think about content, the business, ideas, whatever. I would have had time to think. So it would never have came to me. So again, you could say, so shit that I missed out on such a cool season. Yes, it's annoying, blah blah blah. But in terms of my future, I do feel like that was a necessary 6 months that I needed, and it really has set me up for the next year to 5 years plus because of the mindset that I've developed, the strength that I've developed, the understanding that setbacks, even when you're on a high, you feel amazing, everything seems to be going good, setbacks still fucking happen. And these spanners get thrown in the works every single time you feel too good. And they're going to continue to happen. And, of course, an injury, let's say, is annoying, but in a year's time, when the business doesn't grow, or when I start losing money month on month or whatever it may be, that's just preparing myself for that, you know. And I think some people look at a situation like that with a victim mindset of, oh, I'm always so unlucky, and oh, I'm so sad that I experienced this. It's all, why always me, all that shit. I did do that as well. I did do that as well for 2 years. But when my mindset again shifted to, this shit happens. Like, if you want to be moderately successful in whatever it may be, whatever it is you want to do, you are going to have to face adversity. I said, adversity is a rite of passage for anyone who wants to be great. And if you want to be great, you're going to have to deal with these fucking setbacks. Regardless of what you think of who you are, where you are in your business, where you are in your life, where you are in your health and fitness journey, you're going to get thrown setbacks. And the best and the successful people learn how to overcome these setbacks the quickest, the most effective, and the most efficient way, and learn from those setbacks so that when something like that happens again, they can recover even quicker. So that's where these last 6 months were so influential for me. Gave me time and space to think to myself. I was alone a lot, like, which is shit, but again, I needed that time. And when I was with people, I was very present with them, which was important. But I did have a lot of time alone, and that gave me time to think, to create, to map out the vision of where I want my life to go. And I think it was necessary. I really do think it was necessary. And I think when you look back the year as a whole, 2024, a massive year of growth and a very, very influential year for me. Extremely grateful for everything that happened in that year. Grew as a human, grew as a person, grew as an athlete, grew as a businessman, all that stuff. And there is not one part of that year that I would change, because again, I wouldn't be the person that I am right now if it wasn't for all those good times and bad times. So massive year. Thank you to that year. A very, very influential year. And really, I'm looking forward to 2025. I'm not even going to cut them out. I'm just going to leave this raw. 2025 is going to be a huge year. Huge year. I didn't go out New Year's. I fucking hate going out New Year's because I want to sit in, I want to journal and map out my goals. And that's what I did. 3 hours or so, probably, journaling, writing down, like reviewing the year, previewing the upcoming year. Obviously, I had like the business idea mapped out, and it was only a few days after that, realistically, when I signed my first client, let's say, for the business. But I had the idea a few months before, and it was one of my first goals I've already ticked off, which is class. It's like, obviously, signing your first client in any business is a cool moment. And yes, maybe it might work, and maybe blah blah blah, but seeing that notification, the Stripe payment come in, it was like, fuck, man, this shit's actually real. And that was the main goal for 2025, was to actually make money online, and that's what's happened. And it's come from the brand, and I say this because there is a lot of work has gone into the brand, and sometimes I focus a little bit too much on the brand. Now I'm obviously focusing on the business, and it's all part of the brand. It really is. And I think building is the thing that I get the most joy out of, and conquering and learning how to juggle is the thing that I enjoy. And I have, like I said at the very very start, this is my last semester of college, and I have a lot of shit to do. I obviously have this business now. I have content I'm posting on the podcast. I'm meeting people on the podcast, but I also am a full-time college student who has responsibilities of homework, and um, I have to do a study. I have to conduct a study this year. I have to. I'm like a personal trainer for a client for one of my classes, and I have an internship. So I am becoming a juggler, if that's even a word. I have to juggle all of these things, and I think I said this to my dad there. It was like, you know, I could sit here and in fairness, I have sat here the last week, and it's been like, fuck, like actually I have a lot of shit to do. It's going to be a really busy semester, blah blah blah. And the book that I'm reading right now, thank you to one of my friends um who gave it to me. Well, he gave me the idea of buying it, and I bought it straight away. And it's called The Secret. It's over there somewhere. And it's a bit wishy washy. It's about manifestation and the law of attraction, all that shit. But it is actually true how when you have a negative thought, it actually attracts other negative thoughts, and because thoughts are energy. So when you attract, or when you have one negative thought, let's say, oh, I have so much work to do, I'm going to be so overwhelmed, I'm going to be burnt out, your brain just recognizes them as, it's not I'm going, your brain just recognizes them as current states of reality. So, oh, I have so much work to do, or oh, I'm going to be burnt out. Your brain just recognizes that as burnout as of right now. So instead of having that thought of, the negativity in your brain, switch it to positivity. So let's say for me, I could change it from I have so much work to do to I get the opportunity now to show how much I can handle. Because again, later in life, whether it's a job, whether it's my business, whether it's the brand, there's going to be so much shit to do. There's never going to be a time where it's just going to be easy. I'm not going to get shit handed to me anymore. I have had a very, very privileged growing up. Is that even English? Very, very privileged childhood, let's say. I, I'm so grateful that I've had that. But I'm now going to get to the stage where nothing is going to be handed to me. I'm in the real world now. I just prolonged that experience with going to college. So now I'm in the real world. I have to pay my own shit. I have to get my own bills and all that shit. And it's like, that was going to come eventually. And I've now understood it. And I will understand after this semester, this really, really busy semester, that it's a privilege to have these things that I'm working on. I'm so blessed to be able to run a business, have the knowledge to be able to run a business, create content online, and go to college. Some people can't even do one. So I'm extremely blessed, and I'm extremely fortunate that I've developed the skills to be able to do that, and they've developed the ability to do that. And it's taken time. I definitely couldn't do it 3 years ago. But it's taken time to be able to juggle all that. And like I said earlier, like, burnout is definitely a thought that is festered in my brain. But again, it's like, fuck that, man. Push it out your brain. I have 7 weeks. I might have a little break, 7 in the middle of those, but for my birthday. But after that 7 weeks, I get a week off. So I get a week off, spring break. Probably won't go anywhere. Just chill out here, get back to work, reset, refocus, and then I've 7 weeks, and then I have a week of exams, and then I'm finished. Then I'm graduate college. So when you break it down into those periods, those small chunks of time, 7 weeks and 7 weeks, That's no time. That's absolutely no time. With a break in between each of them. There we go. I'm running out of water as well. That's no time. And it's the exact same for you. We started 75 hard, but March is very, very fast approaching. We're nearly into February. February's a short month. Then we're into March. At the end of March, we're nearly into summer. So by the time you blink, you're already in the middle of the year. So if you don't work now, you're not going to have anything to show for it in the summer. And in the summer, people are happy, the weather's a bit better, people are going on holidays, but you could feel hollow inside because you haven't achieved anything. You haven't achieved the goals that you set yourself from January 1st. And the people who stick past even the second week of January, which I think it's the second Friday in January, is called Quitter's Day. And if you continue past and continue working on your goals or your mission or your whatever, into the third week of January, you're already ahead of like 80% of people. Just deep that for a second. You're already ahead of 80% of people. You've already developed the momentum to keep going. Just by working hard for 3 fucking weeks. That just shows you how poor our fucking generation is. I'm hating on us now. But yeah, this is an opportunity for me to just lock in, man. Just focus for a period of time and really get work done. Really get some good work, solid work done. Learning systems, building out systems, learn how I can optimize my time through AI, through whatever it may be. Just time blocking. And yes, people will look, and people who listen to this will say, what a psychopath. Like, what a crazy man. I've heard that many times. But that's what I want to do, And it's only for a period of time. Because like I said, I'm going to blink and I'm going to be in the summer. And when I'm in the summer, then I can do whatever I want, realistically. So really, really, really looking forward to this year. I've already started the best possible way with content, with 75 Hard, with the podcast, with the business, with everything, with school. Everything is going good, but there will be spanners in the works, for sure. I know that, and I'm aware of that. So the goal is to try to stay ahead of the game with everything that I do, so that I don't get tripped up when a spanner is flinged at me from wherever. I'm out of water. Last point. 25 episodes in. Quarter of a century. And the last 3, I think, have been on my own now. But 22 before that were with Kieran. And, we didn't really set ourselves a goal of what we wanted to achieve with the podcast. There was no real numbers that we wanted. And it was only really after, the stat is, if you record 20, you're in the top 0.1% of podcasts or whatever it may be. Just because of the friction required to start and maintain a podcast. That's why so many people start and fail. But this is almost like a check-in journal type of thing that maybe I'm thinking of doing. The plan is this year, obviously, to bring on some cool guests. Really get to know people online, chat to them about their journey, their brand, how they started doing whatever it may be. And me and Kieran set ourselves, I think, a goal of doing like 40 this year, which may be a stretch. It's all about delegation and time management. And I don't want to commit to 40 because that's nearly one a week, and to get guests on, it's a lot of outreach, especially if you're doing it on your own. So, the podcast is kind of it's going to kill me now. The podcast is a massive part of the brand, but it is still a a side of the brand, a branch of the brand, I call it. And I do want to get some cool people on that align with me, align with my mission, align with the mission of the brand. That hopefully will encourage you to start. Because it's taken me, it's nearly 3 years to the exact date when I posted that first ever video on Tussock. For those who are new, I started posting online on a separate account. It was a brand account. It was a Tussock brand account. It's actually not a podcast page for those who are nosy. But back then, I had no clue what I was doing in my life. And, sorry, I'm on my phone here, but I'm checking to find out where the first post was. The 23rd of January. I'm recording this on the 19th. I actually made the first logo, if you can see that. I made the first logo on the 18th. Then I posted my first ever video on the 23rd. It got like 13k views. It's crazy, man. I was so nervous. It took me 2 hours to film and record and edit this video. It was 17 seconds long. But 3 years to the day, man. And it is very, very cool to see the progress of everything that I've done, everything that I've learned, every step that I've taken. There's been a lot of failures, a lot of messing up. A lot of times where I was like, what the fuck am I doing? You know, a lot of posts that I wouldn't post now, but had to be posted to learn how to edit, learn how to record, learn how to film, learn how to set up. There's so much that I've learned over the past 3 years that, you know, should just be an encouragement to you to just start. That is the reason why the brand is called Tussock. To start. I'm nowhere near where I want to be. Nowhere near. But I actually have taken 100 steps towards that person. And they're micro steps. But in the grand scheme of things, 3 years down the line, those steps have catapulted me into the person that I want to become. And it was only thanks to that timid, shy, introverted child, baby, who posted that first video on Instagram and TikTok. It's only that kid who made that decision to start that is now sitting in this position right now, recording this podcast with a business, with a brand that's attracting people, that's with a podcast, is only that kid. And again, this will be a pivotal moment, 25 of the podcast, but it's also the start of 2025. And it's kind of a bit emotional, like, to be honest, but I'm so glad that child made that decision to take the leap, to stand out, to be different than everyone else. Because without that step, without that leap, none of this would have happened. And I would still be that child. And I think that's the case for so many people. They're so scared to be different. They're so scared to take the leap of faith. And if there was one thing, again, it's why the whole brand is built around the word Tussock, is whatever the fuck you want to do, excuse my French, whatever it is you want to do it. Just start. Just start. Whatever it is, that thing that's coming to your mind right now, that business, that girl that you want to ask out, that swim that you want to go do, that race that you want to sign up to, whatever it is, just start. There is always a tiny step that you can take that may seem meaningless to you, like buying the pair of shoes or buying the socks for to train for your marathon. Buying the socks, that one tiny step is the start. Whether you feel it or whether other people laugh at you or whether other people, however they may think of you, it's always that one tiny step that years down the line, you look back and say, wow, thank fuck I made that decision. And like I've outlined so many times before, I'm nowhere near where I want to be. I'm nowhere near it. But 3 years ago to the day, I made that decision. And if it wasn't for that decision, I wouldn't be the person I am today, and I probably won't be the person that I'm going to be in 5 years. So, I don't even know how long I've been going. 35 minutes, that's pretty good, man. Another waffling session. If you got to the end of that, the best part was right there. I was just from the heart, because the whole reason for me documenting all this is I had this self-belief that I was going to be successful. That was my goal, to be successful, whatever that means. But most successful people only talk about being successful when they're successful. There are very few that post about the struggles now. The one tiny steps each day and each month and each week that goes by that you may seem like you don't make any progress. It's these days and these weeks and these months that you look back on in 5, 10, 15, 25 years time. And you're sitting there with your wife and your kids and your family in your big house, looking out on your holiday. You know, you look back on all the work that you've done, the time that you wasted to some people. You know, it's these days that you look back on them and you say, thank fuck I done all that work. And it should be the same for you. If you're in the position right now where that thing that you just thought about, where you want to start, but you're afraid what other people think of you. You're afraid what your parents think of you for starting a business. You're afraid what your friends think of you for starting posts on social media. You're afraid what anyone thinks of you for signing up to the race or doing whatever. This is your sign to start. Just start. You know. So, I guess we'll leave it there. I have a bit more work to do today. I need to sort of this trout out. I need down a load of water. But if you're still here, I appreciate you. Thank you. You are a part of the brand, whether you know it or not. And it wouldn't be the place where it is without you. So I appreciate you a lot. And this is only the start, man. It really is only the start. I think if you enjoy these type of rants and things, whatever, let me know. I may do a few more of them, because I do like talking. I'm a bit of a waffler nowadays, especially online. But until the next one, thank you so much. Like and share and do whatever the fuck. I don't really care, to be honest. But I do appreciate if you do share it with someone who needs to hear it. Whatever it is you want to do, just start. See you in the next one.